TV, and we are back with another episode of Cooking with the Cooks. I am your host and Chef Brian Cook, and while you might have thought that that was a catchy title, actually, you'll literally be cooking with the cook, as that's really my last name. But enough of me talking, let's get ready to chef it up. Listen, we are back with Cooking with the Cooks. We are in another episode. You're in my home studio kitchen, and we're going to be making jambalaya today. This is one of the dishes that we featured on our weekly meal prep last week, and I thought it'd be fitting to highlight it today. That was part of our Black History influenced menu, and this has an African and Spanish influence as well. So we're going to get into it today. What I wanted to do was to go over a couple different things. As I had talked about it before, and you'll hear me say this over and over again whenever you're cooking with me, is that you want to make sure you have your mise en place. You want to make sure that you have everything in its place, and that's just what mise en place means. So we have our rice, we have our tomatoes, we have our sauce. We're going to go over a couple different things of what these are. We have our shrimp, we have chicken, and instead of me using andouille sausage today, just because I don't eat red meat, I'm going to be using hot and spicy chicken sausage. Don't be afraid of the hot and spicy, because it's really not that hot and spicy. I'm not a big spice guy. I like spice for flavor, not for heat. I also like to have the ingredients out, because as this channel grows and as you grow with me, we'll begin to formulate a spice blend that you can have in your house. We'll be able to have different things that you'll have on hand. But until then, I don't want you to have to run out and get a whole bunch of different things. So I'll just go quickly. We use this Cajun spice by McCormick's. I mess with Paul Prudhomme's, his black and redfish seasoning. I definitely do that. This is a keeper that you want to staple that you want to have, and I'll give you a couple more of those as we continue on. But this is Kinder's. This is the blend seasoning. It's a blend of salt, pepper, and garlic. Then we have Goya tomato sauce, which we're using, and then this is because the recipe does call for crushed tomatoes. However, I had the Hunt's diced tomatoes, and again, I really want you to understand that we want to try and utilize what we have at home. I don't want you to have to go out and get a whole bunch of different things unless it's menu specific, but we just want to go with what we have. So let's jump into this dish right now. We're going to start out with our pot. Now, what I like to do is, before I saute my vegetables, I like to put what's going to give me some flavor in the pot first. So I'm going to turn my pot on. And we're going to go to the hot and spicy chicken sausage. Again, like I said, don't be afraid of the title. This is by Premio. You can use whatever brand you have at your local market. This is chicken sausage, so it's not as fatty, but it does have some oil in it and some flavors. The benefits of using this as opposed to like the andouille sausage is that it's a whole lot of flavor, but a lot of less fat than pork sausages. So we're going to go with 3 for today, and I like to take mine out of the casing, kind of like a meatball or whatever. And I didn't add any oil in just yet, and we'll get to that because I want to have this cook up nicely. So we're going to take these off and get these in the pot. And I'm only going with 3 just because I'm only making a dish for me and the cameraman today, but you can add whatever it is you need for your family depending upon the size of your family, and we'll have the full recipe in our description, and there may be some things as we edit this that we'll put on the screen so it can tell you what measurements to use. But this is 3 sausages, which I think should be enough at the moment. We're going to let this cook. So I haven't added any oil yet. What I want to take the time to stress is that you can cook with extra virgin olive oil. However, regular pure olive oil has a higher smoke point. So it's really your preference and choice. I don't want to waste the more expensive stuff in doing the cooking. I'll use regular olive oil. But the other thing that I want you to understand is that when you store your oil, especially olive oil, a lot of times it'd be easier to get it in the plastic containers, or maybe be more cost effective. But what I want you to know is that this is just regular olive oil, just because I don't want to waste the expensive stuff until the end. So we're going to have our sausage, and what I'm doing here is not only am I giving some flavor to the pan, I'm not cooking the sausages 100% all the way because we're going to add them back in the dish and they're going to cook further with the rice and give it some flavor. So we're just kind of browning these off and getting these situated, and then we're going to set them aside and re-add them back to our pan. So we have that done. Takes about 2 to 3 minutes to get some nice color on here. We're going to set this off to the side. And then the next thing I'm going to be working on is my chicken. Now I season this chicken probably with about maybe 2 teaspoons of this Cajun seasoning. This again is not spicy, and you do have to be mindful of how much flavor you want. It doesn't have a lot of salt in it either, so I did add a little bit of the blend or whatever, and that's just about going. What I like to do is that before I add my chicken, and I seasoned this last night, that's another thing that I want you to be mindful of. I seasoned this on last evening. A lot of times when you do different dishes, people start off with seasoning right away. You want to be able to prep. You want to be able to get yourself set up. So I'm going to put on gloves again, only because I like to dredge my chicken in a little bit of flour, because chicken breast tends to get a little dry when you're cooking it. And because we're going to not only be cooking it in the rice and everything like that, you want to make sure that your chicken is not dry. So I like to dredge mine in a little bit of flour, nothing crazy, just to give it a little bit of a coating. And then I'll put that in. And then I'll work in batches. So I have this chicken cooking in batches. I'm going to add this one as well. And just finish up with this last one. And as this is cooking, I'm just going to move it around. And again, I'm just looking to get a sear on it, lock in the flavor, as opposed to cooking it all the way through. I'm going to add this last one. It hasn't been in the pan that long to we're cooking our chicken, and we're getting a nice sear. I hope the camera can show you some of the sear that's coming in on this chicken. And we're just coating it. I'm moving it around rather quickly because it's going to cook further once we add our liquid and our rice and everything to complete this dish. Now again, this was one larger breast that was cut into thin slices. So if you bought a pack of thin sliced chicken meat, this is what you would get. About this amount. So I said this is probably about a pound of chicken breast cut into small pieces. So we're going to take this and we're going to set this aside as well. Lastly, I'm going to sear off my shrimp. Now this was also seasoned with the same spices that I seasoned the chicken with. And we're going to go through the same process. I do know that when you do make this dish, sometimes people will leave it all in. I just don't like things to be too mushy or too overcooked. So we're going really for great presentation as well as still optimal flavor. But you'll see how these components will still work itself out in the end. So we have our shrimp, and that's cooking. And obviously, if there's someone who has a seafood allergy or a shellfish allergy, they can omit the shrimp. You can just go with the chicken and the chicken sausage, or if you prefer andouille, you can use that as well. So this is going, and we are almost where we need to be at on this shrimp. And then we're going to go ahead and finish off the dish and get it simmering. And then, you know, we'll be right back, ready to go. these are not cooked all the way through, which is exactly what I am looking for. Probably to get them to be 75% done. I'm going to set them right here. And then now, because I don't need really much of a quick saute, and this is where we're going to have our flavor to be built, we're going to start off with our more heartier vegetables, which are our peppers. Then we're going to add our celery. And then we're going to add our onions. And once that cooks, I don't have to worry about using separate spoons in this dish or type of cross-contamination, simply because everything's going to go back in. And you notice that I didn't add the garlic right away because I don't want the garlic to be able to burn. So what we're going to do is let this go for another minute or two. I'm going to add a little bit more oil because then we're going to use that to do a little trick here, in which I learned and I'm going to share with you. So we're going to add our garlic. And what I like to do is, while my vegetables are sauteing, I like to add my rice. This is 1.5 cups of rice, and I'm going to add it right to the pot. And what I'm going to do is basically brown my rice. This is going to add a more nuttier flavor to the dish. It's going to cut down the cook time for a minute or so. And what you're looking for is this rice to brown up nicely. And that's going to add such a great flavor and add some more depth to the dish before we add our liquid. So that was 1.5 cups of rice. You just want it to brown off a little bit. And you'll start to see the edges of the rice starting to turn brown. And that's when you realize that you are where you want to be. Now, if you can see the pot right here, you can see that the rice is starting to turn a little browner. And that's what you actually want. And at that point in time, we're going to add our chicken base. Now, this here is a product by Miners. It's similar to Better Than Bouillon, I think. And that's what you would find in your supermarket. But this is obviously a solid paste that is super flavorful, and we're going to add that directly to our rice at this point. And we're going to make sure that gets all over everything, because not only is that going to be the base seemingly for our chicken stock, which is what I'm adding to this to be the liquid, it's also going to be a color enhancer for the rice as well. So hopefully we'll get like a nice yellow color for the rice in this dish. Okay, we see our rice starting to cook, which is no big deal. We just lower the heat down again. Now we're going to add our tomatoes. We're going to add some tomato sauce. And then what I'm going to add is some sofrito. This is basically a blend of peppers, cilantro, and garlic. But this is something that you can buy in your supermarket. You can buy it in your frozen section, or they have it in the dry aisle. But I suggest, and we'll get to it, that you learn how to make it at home or get it from one of your Spanish friends, because it's so much better with it being homemade. We're going to add that in as well. I have 2 cups of water. Just want to make sure that this is all covered. Turn it down a little bit to get it to a simmer. And then now I'm going to re-add in our sausage, and I'm going to re-add in our chicken. So all of these can now fully be incorporated and cooked. I'm gonna throw in 2 bay leaves just to make it happy. And we're gonna let this go and cook up. And then we'll come back and get to a point to where we'll have to add our shrimp and you'll be ready to go. See you in a minute. So we are back and we are rounding third base on our way home. So what I want you to see is this dish is almost done. We see the liquid's almost all absorbed. As you can see the bay leaves there for flavor. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add these shrimp. And again, like I said, these were pretty much done about 75% of the way. I don't want to disturb it, but I'm going to put the lid on and I'm going to let that cook up and I'm going to get my plate prepared. Plating is everything. And you know, again, it's what you see. I mean, a lot of times you can go and see a dish and people eat with their eyes. So it's very important of the dish not only tasting good, which I can assure you this will taste good, it has to also look aesthetically pleasing. Now I did an event over the weekend, as I told you before, I'm a caterer. So I had some cilantro lime crema, which I'm just going to kind of, I don't know, dot the plate with. And one of the things that is really good that works is I had a piece of cornbread left over as well. Now this is a great dish where you can have cornbread with it. We're going to use that as a garnish to set off everything. Going to add some height to the plate. And then we're going to check on our dish, which is just about done. The steam from the rice has cooked the shrimp all the way through. I'm just going to wait a minute or so more, and then we are going to be ready to plate this delicious jambalaya. Now, I told you before, this is a fun, comfortable environment. We're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. It's not perfect. Couple of things. I probably should have thought through how I was going to plate this because the plate is already designed and I wanted to kind of put this here and push it over. But we'll figure that out. I'm going to go ahead and give this rice a taste. Yeah. Now, when you make jambalaya, it tends to be a little bit mushier or whatever. This is perfectly cooked. I like the consistency of the rice. A lot of flavor. I want to say that I didn't add any salt. However, there's salt in the base and there's some salt in the spices. But you didn't see me add any additional salt, and I didn't need to, primarily because of the way that we built the dish up and the depth of flavor that it had. Once you toast that rice, you'll definitely see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give this a stir, and then we are going to plate this. Let me take out my bay leaves. You have everything looking beautiful. We got some nice, we call it pegao at the bottom of the pot where the rice is sticking out a little bit. But this dish will not disappoint, I promise you. The chicken, as I mentioned to you before, we got the sausages. And a little bit more sausage. I think This is nice restaurant style quality. Beautiful dish. There you go. Jambalaya. We made it home. Hopefully it's a home run with you because I know it's a home run with me. Come on back for our next episode. But for today, for now, Jambalaya, cooking with the cooks.